Livid. We are lived. Livid. Loved. We are.
The
Yeah.
live.
Hi, welcome back to Unique Minds of the Okanagan. I'm Robb O'Day, and we're on location in Kelowna with Richard MacKenzie, a
Hey.
multi-talented artist, musician, graphic designer, video game creator, you name it. This guy does it. How are you, my
Well,
friend?
I'm doing good. How you been, buddy?
Thank you for having me and
Yeah.
sitting down and talking.
Ah,
Let's dive in.
okay.
Where you're from?
Originally from Campbell River, British Columbia on Vancouver Island. Grew up. I am the son of the undertaker.
That's awesome.
So I actually, for the first 5 years of my life, we lived in a funeral home.
How was that?
Fine. I first dead body when I was like 3, but then as I grew up, mom always worked for the funeral business and ended up, my first job was the yard guy
That's kind of crazy,
for
right?
the funeral home. Yeah. Hence goth kid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're definitely destined to be a goth child or a rock guy.
Yeah.
Campbell River, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous area.
Yeah.
My grandma lived in Campbell River, and I remember visiting when I was a kid. And
Yeah.
the coolest thing ever is to see those octopuses under that pier.
Oh yeah.
It's like the biggest breeding ground for octopus in the world, and it's like, it's mind blowing when it actually happens.
I don't remember the octopus so much. I always remember the seals and the dog sharks.
Oh yeah, like the big not walruses, but like the big
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a really beautiful area. How is the music scene there? Did you ever?
I played in a band back there called Tight White Jacket back in the day, and it was funk metal that we did.
Funk metal.
Yeah, funk metal that we did, and I was just a kid, and it was funny because the scene back then when I first started was probably pretty small by many people's standards, but it was like we did have like a very alive music scene for a while. When I moved away, it exploded for a while, of course, when you leave, right? Mm-hmm. And when I moved to Kelowna, and then, I heard it's not as good nowadays, though, but like I heard that Courtney, which is half an hour away, rival town took it.
Right.
So there you go.
Courtney's beautiful too.
Yeah.
The island itself is such a you always hear, oh, that's an island person.
Yeah.
I always forget you're from the island, but it totally makes sense with like how peaceful and like relaxed you are.
We're on island time.
Yeah, you're a Zen person for sure. What got you into music? What was your first experience into becoming a musician?
Cool. Well, how I first became a musician would probably have been as a kid. Like mom's an artist. She does like a lot of paintings and stuff. So I was into the arts, and I loved like CCR and the Doors. Mom used to play that all the time. And then it was kind of my mom would say that when I was a kid, I was destined to be a singer because I was at a church mom used to go to, and they were playing Petra, which is like a Christian rock thing, I guess from the 80s or whatever. And it was I apparently grabbed the microphone as like a 4-year-old and pretended I was the lead singer and ran around the front of the church as like a rock singer. My mom told me about that. So she said I always had a thing for music. Like I wanted to play guitar. They put me in piano lessons. I would not learn piano.
Because you wanted to learn guitar.
I wanted to learn guitar. I didn't want piano.
Guitar, here's piano.
Yeah, like that is not the same thing. But then I ended up, I guess I just always had like a love for music, but then it was, oddly enough, Weird Al was my first like real love for music. Smells Like Teen Spirit was the first, what was it? Smells Like Nirvana is the name of it. Yeah, that was like the first real thing because like mom's a very Christian home, so like rock, like mainstream rock, metal, all that stuff wasn't really allowed. And when I heard that, I was like, this is awesome. What is this? And we didn't have cable or anything like that, so I had nothing to really watch that way. But then just really falling in love with that, it was the next big step for music for me was the Mortal Kombat soundtrack. I found that and was like, what is this? And it's just like electronic music and metal.
And a little bit of guitar, and it was so
like
cool.
all the industrial. That's like where I found Fear Factory, Gravity Kills, Napalm Death is on there.
Wow.
And I was just like,
This is a stack city. You don't even think about it.
Yeah,
That's
and
hilarious.
like it's still one of the best soundtracks ever in my opinion. But I got that, and my mom didn't connect the dots. It was really funny because she was like, "Well, Mortal Kombat's a video game he likes, and this is from a movie about the video game, so that's fine." And it's just the soundtrack. She didn't even click that that's heavy metal, at all. And so I got into that, and then somebody, my buddy who went to the public school, I went to a Christian school. My buddy who went to the public school, his friend was like, "Oh, you guys like that, like this stuff? Oh, I got a whole bunch for you." So he just gave me Clawfinger, Metallica, Slayer, Sepultura, and then at the same time got introduced to Ice Cube and what was it?
Gangster
Eazy-E.
rap. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was gangster rap and
So
heavy
funny.
metal at the same time.
It's my life, bro.
And it was just like immediately just like, oh. And that stuff made my mom mad, which somehow made me like it more.
Right.
Which is funny, but like I just around that time, like I was really angry too because like I had a broken home and stuff. So like, but by the time I was 15, Mom actually got me a guitar, and when I actually got my guitar, it was just I never put it down.
Yeah.
Like that was just that was my baby from that point on, and then it was like. And then it was just progressing into it. And my mom came around on the music thing. She said herself, and I can pretty much quote my mom on this, was she said that she realized that the church's opinion on heavy metal and her trying to enforce that was actually putting a wedge between me and her. And she said, well, instead of just listening to what they're saying, I'm going to listen to it and see what I think. And I'll never forget the one moment when Mom actually did, because I was in my room cleaning it, and I had Iron Maiden Fear of the Dark on. And it was the live version, and I had
Rock and Rio.
It was on Rock and Rio. It was actually off of their Best of the Beast album, which is all their greatest hits. And I just had the CD playing. Mom had me cleaning my room, so I cleaned my room with the CD on. And I had it down, I thought, low enough that Mom wouldn't get mad. And she actually comes storming in, opens the door, and I'm like, great, I have to turn down my music. And she goes, that's awesome. I was like, I'll take out the expletive, she said, but like, she's like that. She's like, that's awesome. She's like, turn it up. And I was just, who's this?
Who is this lady?
You know, like, this is not my mom. My mom, she hates this. And yeah, that was the first real thing that my mom loved. She actually said when I listened to it, it was just a new version of The Doors and CCR and all that. And so she loved it. And then now my mom's favorite bands are Rammstein, Rob Zombie, and what was the other one she really, really loved? It was a power metal band. She still loves Iron Maiden. But there's another power metal that my mom loves. Yeah.
That is awesome.
My mom's actual birthday a couple of years back, me and a buddy actually took her to Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie.
That'd be so
when they're
good.
playing in Vancouver, and we took her there. She loved it. She
That would have been such a good show.
Oh, it was wicked.
That's
so much
hilarious.
stuff happening.
Yeah, that is. I feel like we've talked about this before, but never like in depth about like how, like you were raised in a Christian home, and then with being a metalhead, and then your mom accepting it. That is really cool. Do you think that somehow led you into metal?
What, the rebellion of it, or
The
like
spiritual aspect, like being a spiritual person and having a faith, and being like, because metal is very. So there's a lot of religious speech. There's a lot of freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Within metal, so I feel like there are a lot of Christians who tend to gravitate towards it. Because
I can see that.
The moral lessons. But there's a lot of metal that is very like...
Oh, there's church burning, screaming, burn everything to the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right?
Like,
so it's
100%.
like, you see like the weird, like you see a lot of Christian metal bands that are huge,
There's some, and then there's some that are like, one of the only like things that always bothered me about like Christian metal bands is when they use it, like if a band wants it, like Demon Hunter, if they want to go and say like, hey, we're Christians, and like really push it, and they do sing a lot about Jesus and stuff like that, and it's like cool, like that's your thing, and that's cool, right? I actually do like a lot of their stuff. But if you're gonna go out there and say you are, and then like live the opposite, I'm kind of like, why are you calling yourself that? And like, are you just doing that for marketing? And that's the thing that always makes me annoyed. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to hear your marketing ploy that I'm a Christian band, because you think, hey, well, that means that sell. Like, well, it's kind of like, at one point I remember as a teen, being a metalhead and in a Christian school, a bunch of the other Christian kids were like, well, Richard, you've got to like find something that's not like Slayer, because you carved that into your arm. Because I did carve Slayer into my arm. That might have set some people off. I still have part of the scar, just that one there.
That's so funny.
But I actually did with a pin.
Like trying to give yourself like a branding?
Like, it was divine intervention. Like the thing where they actually scalpeled it into their arm.
Okay,
so I was like, I don't have a scalpel. I got this pin. And I did have Slayer written down my arm for a while. But I was a weird kid.
Right?
But
well, and now you look at it, you're a eccentric artist.
Yeah.
So it makes sense being a weird kid and becoming this like artistic person in many avenues. It's usually the weird kids who are artists.
I think some of the reasons I was really gravitated towards heavy metal, though, like there's the religious aspect of it became more of a battleground for me to argue like free speech and other things amongst like Christian people, even amongst like atheists, is just being like, hey, like, you know, there are these moral lessons, and these are actually biblical, and they're actually right out of there. And then there's also like, when you're arguing with like, say, a Christian person, you can be like, hey, this isn't satanic. He's not referring to the devil as like his buddy. He's actually like saying he's like, it's going to come and get you. Like Black Sabbath, like you could read some of their lyrics and it's more Christian.
You could definitely misconstrue them, and that's where it's like hard being a writer. Like a lyric writer like us, right? Like where, especially now.
Oh, dude, you have to be, you want to be careful with what you say sometimes. Like,
or sure.
Like,
I've learned that I just better to shut up than anyone else.
I am glad certain projects that I started when I was younger never got recorded and never became a thing. Like, I was in a punk band with a buddy of mine, and I won't name much about it because like there's a lot of expletives. But we purposely tried to start a band that would offend people years ago when it was harder like to do so. And we, like, all our titles were stuff that would like make people cringe. And even our presence, like, we wanted to dress in loincloths and go on stage and, you know, be characters. And we named ourselves things that sounded like they should be in a more adult-oriented group. Yeah. And so, you know, like, thank God that did see the light of day, because if it did, there'd be a lot of people who hate me.
Right? Yeah.
Like, at random. And the thing is, if you were in a band like that, even if it was like a joke, and it was literally, we were just trying to see how we could make angry, right? Yeah. And it was like a in-joke with friends, but like, if one song from that band would have been like recorded on a video camera, and then you're like, hey, my band got really big, and
somebody pulls that up from like 20 years later.
20 years later, bam, here's this video of you playing this song that's really bad. Really bad. And you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to navigate now. Like, I feel like there's this weird, like, when our parents were growing up, like, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, and, like, Kiss were the way to rebel. Yeah. You know what I mean? 100%. And then, like, we had to make it heavier, and we had to color our hair and get piercings and tattoos. And that was how we rebelled. Yeah. How does this generation rebel against their parents who have tattoos, listen to heavy metal, and are like, they don't drink? They don't party.
Square.
They're being good kids.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They've
So,
all
like,
become squares.
So it's kind of a weird transition, like how the world, like we grew up with like we want to like, you know, like how can you fight the man? And this
Well,
was
yeah,
how,
like
now fighting the man is like being a good human being. It's such a weird transition.
It's like I used to call myself a social anarchist all the time, right? Like I believe in social programs for people in need and for the general public. And other than that, government can go to you know where, and they should stay away from me.
Because you do a lot for the community too. Which
try.
is not even just like music and all that, which we'll dive into. Because it's actually kind of mind-blowing about like the amount of love that you give back to Kelowna, even though it's not your hometown. Like a lot of people would do that in their hometown, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like,
well, I've been here for a long time. So
how long have you been here now?
20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've been here for 20 years now. So it's like with that, it's like I have a long history here, right?
Yeah.
Like, and with that, it's like, well, you know, how can I put that? Like, it's just
It's become your home.
Yeah, it's basically my home now.
Yeah.
Right? It's been my home for a long time now,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's still always something that from the island that calls me back. It's like I was just there, and honestly, it's just so chill.
It's the air.
Yeah, it's the air. Well, actually, there was one thing that was a study apparently done way back when, is that the island, because it's constantly shaking because of all the tectonic plates that are supposed to be just letting go and destroying it, but so they're letting go slowly, that everything in the island's always shaking. Said everyone born on the island has sea legs. And so when we get on land, we're like, it's like...
We don't feel right.
Yeah, we feel like we need to go rock again, man. Like,
Yeah.
we got to get moving.
That's funny. I've never thought of that.
Yeah, it was just something that was said to me years ago. I'm like, because I always clear my head when I go back.
Yeah.
But it's also island time.
Yeah.
You go from Kelowna, that's like, let's go get stuff done, let's do whatever. And then you go back to the island, it's like, hey, we're gonna, I don't
even know.
we're just gonna hang out in the woods.
Yeah.
Like, just stare at a tree for a while.
That is my when I'm struggling with life and I need to get away. Cathedral Grove. That's my escape. Cathedral Grove.
Cathedral Grove?
Yeah, it's on the way from, you go Coombs to Port Alberni, and you go through the giant trees that are like, that place is magic.
It's not actually super far from where my mom is now.
Okay.
My mom is in Nanaimo now.
Oh.
She's right by the living forest.
I love Nanaimo. The island is amazing, and like the music from the island, there's so many cool bands.
Oh yeah, like,
from the island.
Dead Rights, we both know.
Yep.
Great.
Yeg.
Like, Yeg, yeah.
There's so many good bands.
There's I had buddies out there who used to play all the time. My one band that I used to know really well was like Tribune, but they dissolved now. But they were around. They had like three albums and an EP, I think, was what they did. Yeah, they were around for a while, but they packed it in, I think, 5-6 years ago, I think they packed it in.
Crazy.
Maybe more. Time goes too fast.
It does, honestly. Like, I'm trying to think about... You said you've been in Kelowna for 20 years, and then it made me count, and I'm sitting here like, I've been here for almost 16. Like, that's crazy to think about, too. It does go really quick, especially when you're constant, like, and that's the one thing about us as, like, artists. Constantly fight, like, you're always pushing for the next thing, and you're finishing one project, and you're already on to the next, and it's like, you don't have time to stop and, like, breathe. Because you're so focused, you're so hyper focused, as like, especially being with ADHD as an artist.
Yeah.
there is no like leniency towards your own time. Like, your own time is creation time, and like it's hard to.
And it also
dissect that sometimes.
The ADHD likes to fight it sometimes. And you want to go and do something else, and you're like, no, I need to get this done. Yeah. But it's like, no, you should just go play that game.
Right.
Yeah. But at the same time, I get you, right? Like, but ADHD, in my opinion, can be used as a superpower as well.
That's what I like to think of it.
Yeah, it's like I have been able to do multiple things and think further ahead than some friends and some, I guess you could say, competitors in some ways in arts, because like I have to constantly doing some freelance art and everything like that. Like, I have been given projects where it's like, do this 3D model, blah blah blah, and I'm okay, and then I can think ahead of what I have to do next to get it done faster, and I actually finish it faster than people expected me to. They were like, you have a month to get this done. I got it done in a week. And they're like, holy crap.
When it comes to graphic designing, because I know that's your full-time job as a freelance graphic designer and animator, which is...
Yeah. Well, not animation. I do... it's called a modeler. Animation.
Modeler, sorry.
Yeah, the animator part. I can't move things.
Yeah.
Like if I try to move them, they look like robots.
That's funny. Yeah, but it's... What led you to, like, how did you get into...
All the arts?
Wanting to do that, yeah. Like, what led you into being...
Kind of around the same time as the music and everything like that. For me, like, with the broken home thing, like, and then I guess being raised around, like, death and all that, an escape.
Were you raised by a single mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my dad left when I was 5.
Okay.
And he didn't come back until I was 13.
Okay, so
well, he was in and out.
Very relatable.
But, like, he wasn't until I was 13 is when he started being always, like, we saw him every weekend from that point on.
Okay.
But for me, that was, I guess you could say I had a lot of, like, harbored anger through that time. And, you're trying to figure out who you are.
You're just growing, right?
Yeah.
You need that role model there to help too. So, yeah, I understand.
And that's the funny thing. It's like, Mom tried to get some guys to step in with me. And there are some that I have the utmost admiration for, right? Like, and a lot of them were from the church, which was surprising. Like one pastor, Pastor Moody or Pastor Mark Moody, I always think this is funny because I was troubled youth, right? And he picked me. My mom's like, oh, can you take him out, do guy stuff with him? And he's an American. And what's the first thing he does? He takes me out into a thing and he gives me a gun. He's like, we're going to shoot stuff. Yep. And I'm like, cool. Like, and that was funny. Like, then the other, I remember another pastor, Pastor Robb, he taught me how to fix a brake pad on a car and stuff like that. But then even one of my teachers, Mr. Down, he actually used to come to my football games.
That's awesome.
And so, like, he was there. And it was nice to have, like, I had some guys that were really good role models in that way. So, but yeah, with the anger though and stuff, it was like video games gave me an escape. They let me just kind of go into another world and forget
about everything.
Yeah, what was in my head and whatever else. Music was the same. It was like both of those things are the two things that gave me a way to cope with the worst situations. Things that I normally would probably like break down or be more angry and stuff. And I actually used to get in street fights all the time when I was a kid, like all the time.
I find that really funny because you're like the nicest pacifist guy I've met ever.
And like but I was like very angry, and I used to like pick fights with guys, or if someone looked at me wrong, I'd just slug them. And it was the guitar that finally gave me an outlet to like release that, and heavy metal. Those were my like, this gets that out in a productive way. But like gaming gave me a space to kind of just go and art and things like that. Like I released, a friend of mine actually said to me once when I stopped fighting, she actually challenged me not to fight. She said, the next time you're really angry, scribble on a page. Scribbling on a page seemed kind of dumb to me. So instead I found like Spawn, and I tried to draw Spawn, and I tried to draw comic book characters I loved, and like things like that. And so the nerdy world, I guess you could say, of like comics, video games, and and heavy metal, because it is nerdy. I don't care. There's like a high level of nerd when you have bands that do whole albums about Lord of the Rings. Yep. Right?
Yeah, I love it. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Diggy diggy hole, man. Yeah. Like if you go look up that song, you'll know what I mean. But like but yeah, that's the thing. It's like, so it was a natural progression when I finally decided I wanted to go to college for something. Originally, I wanted to go to college to be a history poli-sci.
Wow. And
because one of my teachers, who was really good to me, was actually my history teacher. And Mr. Demers was really great. And Mr. Down, who was my French drama teacher and video arts teacher, he was also a history. Like that was his original like major, but he ended up being the French and
that's so funny.
And drama teacher. So those two teachers we talk about history and stuff. They talk to me about it and teach me about it. And so when I left high school originally, I was going to be like, hey, I'll get into politics and that. And I got in a huge fight with the, what do you call him? You know, the guy you have to see, was it career planner or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy there, he was just
Counselor.
a jerk. And me and him had a huge argument, and I walked out. Then I didn't go back to school for a long time. I was like, screw it, I'll just be in a metal band.
Right.
Started playing more metal. And when I went back, finally, when I finally went back to school, it was like, you know what? Let's do what like 12-year-old me would love. And I knew that Center of Arts Technology was in Kelowna. So then, cool. So I went there.
That's cool. You went to Cato?
Yeah, I went to Cato.
Love Cato.
Yeah, I did was it 3D animation for arts and blah, blah, blah. I have the thing right there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Over across the room. So, but yeah, I did that, and honestly, I wouldn't look back. Like you said, with the ADHD, it's like you need all sorts of stuff, keep you busy. And for me, I find that making a game and then music and just doing random art pieces and stuff like that gives me like a way to cope with it itself. So
I find that like the most talented artists tend to come from either broken homes or traumatic backgrounds. And I always find, like I always talk about, it's like because we hit our rock bottom at such a young age, where most people have like a midlife crisis. They don't. It doesn't happen until they're in their midlife, and then they don't know what to do, and that rebuilding is like the hardest thing for them. And it's when you're constantly building from the ground up because you're struggling.
Well,
it makes you real tough.
Well, that's the thing. Like when I came out here, I actually chased a girl out here. So
it's always a girl, bro.
Yeah, always a girl. I chased. We were engaged and stuff, and I came out here, and I was like right out of high school, pretty much, right? And I came out here, and then she ended up running off with somebody else, and whatever. And like I ended up on the street, and so I was homeless for a while here and everything, and I built my way up, and then from there. I was my sister's legal guardian for about a year or two. I think 2 years. I was her guardian, and then so I put her through high school and stuff, and I was only like 21. So, like I've dealt with enough that if you threw whatever at me now, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah,
right?
And I think that's why, man, you are the way you are. Like you're so relaxed and calm, because you're able to take the punch to the face and just smile it off, because you're used to taking shots.
Oh yeah,
to grow, right? Like, and I think that's what makes artists really strong, especially like being able to express yourself through people. If somebody doesn't listen to metal and doesn't understand by like playing music, it's always hard to describe why it's so like why people love it so much, or like why it's like metalheads always seem to have the same kind of personality. And it's because most of the time we are the kids who are pushed aside, forgotten, like kids. Told to be leave, like you're meant to be seen, not heard. Like go do your own thing, like or parents abandoning them, or like growing up on the streets and then having to find something that is like the reason to stay, and it tends to become art.
Well, that's the thing too, right? Like my mom being an artist, like that was probably her big thing. Is like she's done a lot of the paintings that are in here. Like she was really great with me. Like my sister, she didn't want to stay back home with her and listen to rules at the time, right? But Big Brother was different, right? Yeah. And that's why she ended up with me. But when you talk about like the broken home, the being pushed aside, like I was a weird kid. I like, Undertaker's son. I'm like connected to the funeral homes and stuff.
I love it.
I'm like, yeah, but you're a goth kid and whatever else. It was funny too, because when because I was in the Christian school with all these like pastors' kids and whatever else that were like my, whatever you call it, my peers or whatever. And when I left high school, and my sister went to the public school at that point. My other sister Rachel, and she's in the public school. And I remember she introduced me to, like, that's how I got in my first metal band, is she actually introduced me to, like, the other metalheads in town that I did not know existed. I was like,
there's more of me.
There's more of me. Oh my God. There's like, and my sister was a punk, and I knew there was like punks that were in the, like in the Christian school and stuff, because like punk wasn't metal, right? It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was anti-established.
It was straight edge at that point.
Yeah. Actually, it was starting to go into the emo thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then there's but for me, it was like I was like metal, right? Like, and I think the biggest trigger for a lot of people was Black Sabbath, because they knew what that was, right? And then they didn't even, I'm like, if you read the lyrics, like, God, it's not even.
It's amazing.
Geezer Butler was actually trying to become a Catholic priest before he did that, and I'm like, dude, like,
people don't.
It's just funny, but
Yeah.
I do agree with you though. It's like that when you have a rough outside, it's an outsider's music. I do find it funny at times that it feels like metal is starting to break out of that a little bit, where people are starting to understand it. But I think it's social media has kind of created a little bit more of a resonance to it, because I don't know. I guess you could say in a way, I think that some people are outsiders without seeming like it to the outsider. If you know what I mean.
I feel like there's a lot of people who think they're outsiders when they're not.
Yeah.
I
like,
think nowadays, especially, there's a lot of people who just want to be separated, and because it puts them in a special bracket.
it could be a special bracket in some cases. Like I've seen that, right? Like that was where it's like, oh, I want to be cool. I want to be goth, because that's a big thing now.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, like
Be yourself.
I'm like, you're not goth. Sorry.
It's
not
gatekeeping the goths.
I'm not going to gatekeep goths, but like, I will say it's like, it's funny to see somebody take on something that like I loved as a kid, and when I wore like nail polish and eyeliner, I would get called slurs.
Multiple words.
And multiple words that were very slurish, and I remember a beer bottle missing my head by about that much. And
I've been tossed down sets of stairs for nails being painted. Yep.
Totally and you know, like stuff like that, and you're just like, you know, that's, and anyone who has dealt with that will resonate with metal almost right away. Like almost right away, it's just like there's an aggression, there's a release. It's cathartic, right? Like,
I think we get to be the ones who laid the foundation that they don't have to deal with that too. I think that's a really good thing. Is like we got to take the brunt of all of that, so that the younger goth kids and the kids of today who want to be whatever they want can be. It is because we got our butts kicked because of it.
I'm super proud of it, man.
You know what I mean? Like it made me who I am. I'm tough because of it, but it's like I'm very thankful to see that it's not. That goth is now like accepted, and metal is accepted, and punk kids are accepted, and it's like that is the norm now.
I think that's what I was trying to get at with like getting outside of this outsiders music, is like when we were young, it was very much like you're a weird guy. Yeah. Like I remember a guy catching me like walking down. I had my headphones in, and I was screaming death metal. I think it was listening to In Flames, and like screaming along with it. And this guy just pulls over. He's like, "You a metalhead? Cool scream!" Like, and just like throw. I'm like, "Cool." I wasn't expecting that. Like that was in Kelowna, and that's kind of why I started liking being here back then, because I went from not very well accepted in my hometown to accepted here.
Kelowna is a magical place. Growing up, it was always almost an intimidating place, because it was like, it's Kelowna. And growing up outside of Kelowna, like being an outsider, you look at it and it's very cliquey.
It can be.
Because it's so big, because we're used to small towns where everyone knows everyone. Yeah. But when you're coming to a big city and there's these pockets and different pockets, it seems cliquey, but it's just, that's big city mentality.
I was okay.
Big city in quote, because it's still growing, but it's like in the Okanagan, in our region, we've got 250,000 people here. That's a big city to us versus Penticton, who's got like 30,000, right? So
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I think the reason that I did okay with it too is I'm quite the extrovert when it comes to humans. I'm just like, I'll just come up and tell you my life story, and there you go. If you want to hang out, cool, right? Like, and there's people who are like, that guy's very weird, and they just leave, and I'm like, that's fine.
I've been told I'm very open, because I'm not scared to talk about who I am and what I've dealt with, right? And I think, especially as males too, like, we're told to tough it up, man up, deal with it, especially like our generation, right? Like,
very, very much.
And growing up without dads is kind of like, who's supposed to teach us to be the man other than our moms?
Yeah.
And which means our moms are now having to be like these tough, burly women, right? Who can take care of us. But it's like, I'm very thankful for being raised as like from a single mom who worked 3 jobs to take care of me, because it made me a workaholic. Like, that's all I do. And the most important thing to me is family and friends. And it's like, and I think that's like that outsider mentality, right? Like, if you come from a picture-perfect setting, you're never going to like understand what it's like to struggle. Like I said, then you hit your midlife crisis and it's like impossible. And it's like, as an artist, I feel like we drive off of that. Like, we fuel ourselves on...
My darkest moments created my best art.
Exactly. And I think that's what separates artists and why people are drawn to artists. Like Van Gogh cutting his ear off. If he wasn't an artist, people would probably just think he was crazy. But because he was a talented painter, people were like, I resonate with him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it wasn't until after he was gone. But
yes, but you know what I mean? Like, it's... Yeah. When you're never appreciated in your time is kind of what I'm getting at. It's like, especially with arts, like...
But the thing is, it's not fully created. Like, it'd be nice to be appreciative while you're still around here. Mm-hmm. It'd be nice to have your metal band or your rock or whatever band you're in, like, explode. But, like, it's not why we do it.
No, and that's what we always talk about. It's like, it's nice to be successful and stuff, but, like, there's never an age limit on success and fame and being able to achieve your goals. And I think that Pentagon proves that with their recent blow up after 30 years of being nobodies. Yeah. Like, they were huge in the 70s, 80s, and all of a sudden they went dead for the 90s, 2000s. And all of a sudden the lead singer's making big-eyed videos on TikTok, and they blow up again, right?
Yeah, and it's funny. I remember finding them years and years and years ago, and I was like, this is a cool band. And then they just kind of forgot about them. Because it was like they're cool, but they're like Sabbath-y. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's cool. I'm like, I was more, at that time, I think I was listening to more like thrash and death. So I was like, well, like, it's cool, but like, whatever. And then this comes out, I'm like, oh my God, he's still alive.
Yeah, dude, and that's what I mean. It's like, there's never an age limit, especially now. I think right now, we were raised in a really terrible mentality because we were in the transition phase for music. So we went from where you had to have the look, the attitude, the rock star mentality to you had to actually write good music. You didn't just have to be good looking and pretty. To now it's like you really have to fight to be a musician now because there is so much out there.
Well, and that's the thing.
But there's no age limit.
We've seen it go from like, the 70s where it was about the music, about how you wrote. But in the 80s, it was the videos. Mm-hmm. And it was like, how pretty are you? Like, if you're pretty, then you can sell records. If you're not pretty, too bad. And then like if you look at the 90s and the early 2000s, it was very much still that, but it was like young.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to start you at 16. If you're not a star by the time you're 18, you're probably not going to make it by the time you're 27.
And that's what programmed us to like the 27 club.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many artists passed away at 27? It's because they killed themselves doing so.
Yeah. And well, that's the thing. You had to just go.
Yeah, because that was the industry, how it was, right?
And it can be, depending on, and like we said, we all come from like a little bit of a darker background than some, right? Like a lot of artists do suffer with a lot of mental illnesses. Oh, yeah. And like you, I know myself, like I can't speak for anyone else, but I know with myself, I've had points in my life where I've used a lot of drugs. I've drank excessively. I've done a lot of things that like I probably shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. And but it was like when I wasn't creating or whatever else, like that monster was there, and he's always there. And if I let him out, it was like, that's when you get into the trouble, right? Mm-hmm. And when you have people like Jim Morrison, who was a huge thing for me, it's like, I really think that he was just mentally suffering. Booze was a great way for him to just cope, you know? Lots of artists have said the same thing. Like Dave Mustaine talks about like a lot of his broken home and things like that. And
Yeah.
I resonated. I think that's why Megadeth has been one of my favorite bands forever, is because like
Me too.
I resonated with Dave. I was like, you might be a messed up human being, but like
you're the same messed up as me.
Yeah, you're like me.
I'm messed up too, bro.
I get it, man. What you said meant something to me, and then I kind of lost ADHD, just went like that. But like
the broken home and being creative and making music, and it tends to be a running theme.
It is
throughout musicians and artists.
And like we were saying, the 27 Club and stuff. Yeah, you just end up killing yourself. But I think today, one of the biggest things too with
whether
music
they did or it was like an OD or a car accident, it always seemed to be around that time, and it's like that would have been the 10 years from becoming picked up.
Pretty much,
right?
And it's just like a constant hammer on it, right? Like, also like I think today one of the nicest things about social media, as much as it's hard to navigate and it is a weird monster in itself, and can be quite the monster in itself. I think the cool thing with it is like you do see guys, like you said, who are like 50, 60, 70 years old, and they get their break. And it's like, dude, you never see that before. Like that would have been like early 2000s, and see somebody who's 70 make it, it'd be like, what? It would be like a gag, maybe, but not like actually make it. And then like now again, I think it's more about like, are you writing something that's real? Are you significant? Like, I think that's why we see stuff like goths, metalheads, and stuff like that getting more accepted, is because we're real.
I think it's also because like, well, we're being raised, Jason might not.
Yeah.
Big beard Jason.
Oh yeah, of course.
Me and him have had this conversation before, and it's like, the way we rebelled against our parents was loud music, tattoos, and piercings. And it's like, how do you rebel against your parents who have tattoos and listen to loud metal and have piercings? Like, you can't really rebel against that, other than to be the complete opposite,
which is a good kid.
Which is a good kid.
Yeah.
And you definitely see the younger generation is like working, or they're doing what it takes to be successful people.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's a good thing. That means we finally got to a point where like we don't have to stress about this anymore. It's doing itself naturally.
Yeah.
So like, because it's being accepted, I think it's because like we got to make that change, and now it's like that's why it's so common, is because it's like like even my kids are 4 and 2.5. My son hears a metal song, dude, and he is jacked up. He loves it. And it's not because it's loud and aggressive. It's because his brain is very mathematical, and I can already see this. Like, swear this kid's gonna be an architect. The things he builds, I'm like, how'd you even keep that structurally sound? And it's there. Like, I'm trying to flick it over, and it's not going down. I'm like, this kid's got some kind of mathematical genius going on.
There you go.
That's like his ability to listen to like a progressive song, and you stop and watch a 2.5-year-old go. And he's like counting. He's timing out the songs from like a Dream Theater song. Nice. And you're like, how? You can see it. Like, he hears a normal song, and then he hears a progressive song, and he stops, and he's like, what is this? This is different.
There you go.
And it's like, to me, I'm like,
he's got that ear for it, that timing.
Yeah, it's just weird, right? Like, it's like we're building this new generation of metalheads.
Well, and that's the thing, too. It's like, we played I was helping out at a show the other day, and I got to see like 2 young bands go up, and they're like, first show for 2 14-year-olds. They're just a guitarist and a drummer, and then the other band had 2 19-year-olds and 2 16-year-olds, and they were playing the show. I was just kind of doing the door and helping out, and I was blown away. Like the one, there was a 16-year-old girl shows up. She's got a flying V, and I swear to God, the guitar was as big as her. And she starts playing Pantera, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, sweet, right? I'm like, at first I'm like, oh, it's walk, so it's not like the hardest riff, and I'm like, still cool, good chase, right?
Right.
But then the solo kicks in, and I forgot that's not amateur.
Not an easy solo. No, that's not
and then I like turn, and she just nailed the entire solo. I'm like, that's cool.
Diamond's looking down at her.
Like I was like, you know what? That's rad. Like that was. Seeing the next generation love that music and love playing it and still doing what we did.
Yeah, I got goosebumps.
I love seeing that. I love seeing the kids getting into it. And we were playing. I was playing with Oldguard, and we were playing it back in, I think it was January. I think it was January this year, and we were playing a show. And without the glasses, I'm blind, right? And I took them off. Well, of course, I take them off when I'm on stage and singing. So I take it off, and then I was silent, I started playing, and then I'm like, and luckily I don't know what, but I guess part of my brain just knew this was happening, but I was a little bit more PG the entire show, and than I normally am. And I looked up at the end of the show, I just put the glasses on, and we had like 20 teens in the hall, because it's an old age venue, and it usually is always 20-somethings to 30-somethings, right? Or whatever. And I like put the glasses on those teenagers. I'm like, oh, well, thank God I didn't say all the things I usually say. Like it's just like I wasn't a complete bad influence for once.
Then there's me. I'm like, I've performed with you. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, like, there's a few things I've said. I'm like, ooh, that's a good thing I didn't say that. Yeah. But it was really funny that like just seeing all of them and really into it, and like seeing young goth kids that were like 16, and I'm like, it is awesome. I'm not like to see somebody who's like, you're in the same style. Like it is funny though, because like once in a while I have talked to like somebody who's younger, even in their like early mid-20s, and they start talking about being like how they're really into goth and stuff, and they'll name bands and stuff like that, and I'm like, some of them I have no idea. Most of the time I know every single one, but when they name a couple that they really like, I'm like, so now here's these bands.
Yeah.
And here's this movie you have to see. I had one friend who was got super into the goth thing, met her, she's awesome, and then she had never seen The Crow. And I was like, what? Like, no, you here.
You've never watched The Crow.
Yeah, but like, then again, like, you know, that movie's
very
30
culty.
years old.
Yeah, it's very underground culty.
Yeah, but it's like, and the newer ones aren't so good.
And kind of slid under the rug because of the death of Brandon Lee.
Yeah,
right?
Brandon Lee, and yeah, but at the same time, it's like, that's a movie you have to see. Dude, it's still my favorite.
Still, even the comic books are amazing. I have edition, like episode, like the first edition, the first #1 of The Crow.
I've never been able to get my hands on that comic. It's
my prize, one of my prized possessions.
Oh, dude, of course it would be. Like, that's like, awesome.
I've got like Todd McFarlane and The Crow are probably like the two.
Todd's one of my favorite.
Those are like my favorite artists.
Like Spawn.
Anything Dark Horse, I think it is. So I'm pretty sure those are all Dark Horse.
Well, no, Spawn's Image.
Oh yeah, sorry, Image.
But they left everybody and then created their thing. But like, yeah, like the man, if you haven't been to the Okanagan Cards and Collectibles, check that out, because like they have all the comics. They actually got the my buddy Greg and Chris. They got in the, what do you call it? It's Compendium Spawn. I'm just going to go pick them up. They're like $60, $70 or something like that. Yeah. But they're like 50 to like 80 of the comics in one.
Wow.
So it's like a pretty much graphic novel.
Yeah.
So I'm buying them.
That's
all
so
of them.
sick. That's hilarious.
I was just like, man, I used to have these, and when I got somewhere along the way, you know, they disappear.
Yeah.
And I know my one sister snagged majority of my comics. My sister Rachel, like, I had a box, so and she snagged like all. But she was like, me and Rach were always into like the same thing. She was like, growing up.
Mini-me?
Well, not my mini-me. Like, we were both doing our own thing. But I was like the goth metalhead. She was the hardcore punk.
Oh, okay.
Right? And we kind of opposed each other for a while. And then I guess, as you could say, as we got older, we like, because we were both very like stubborn, very like, this is my thing. We're in the same friend group, but we're like, you know, this is my friend, this is my friend, kind of thing, right? But
that's like me and my older brother Rory.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And then like you're just
so close in age that it's hard to differentiate whose group of friends is whose.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you're all friends, and you come
we
from a small
all
town.
ended up being that way. It didn't matter, right? And in the end, we all ended up being friends, and it was like, but I think Rachel and I got like closer and closer because of that, because like we still like, we'll send music to each other. I think the most common thing is dad jokes, but like, you know, like that's probably the most common thing we send, and it's like, But no, that's the thing though. Like it was music. Eventually, like Rachel, kind of a funny thing about shows and stuff. Rachel's, I think it was her 16th birthday. Yeah, it was her 16th birthday, because I was just turning 19 or not, and I actually brought her to go see Static X, Slayer, and Pantera for her 16th birthday. And that was super rad. And ever since then, Rachel got more into metal. But it was funny because I ended up playing in a metal band that covered a couple of punk songs. Then I started getting really into punk rock. So like,
yeah, just switched.
So we just kind of switched, and now hilarious. We just kind of like have this blurred line. We're like, oh, you know this band? Yeah,
that's so
like,
funny.
That's
so funny.
Which is awesome. Like, music is a universal language, and like
it is.
I think the older I've gotten, the more appreciative I am for music outside of metal and everything. Like electronic music, I have a big love for. I was huge into industrial though, like Skinny Puppy, Frontline Assembly, things like that. Like kind of golf culture, electronic music, right? Like, and then I had a roommate years ago when dubstep was huge, and she was a raver, like huge raver, but she also loved death metal. So we got along great.
They usually do go hand in hand, honestly. If you like dubstep, you usually like metal.
Yeah.
Because it's the metal version of electronic music.
Really?
Same with DMB. The DMB is another one that I'm like, that's drum and bass is metal.
Yeah.
That is the most metal.
Yeah, dude. Like
it's like you can't. That's like.
And it crosses over really well.
So
too.
fast paced. Yeah.
Like,
right.
Was it the band Cell Dweller? I've always really loved, and they actually cross that over. They'll have like drum and bass beats, and all of a sudden it's like just heavy metal guitar kicks in.
That's why I love like Pendulum, because it was a electronic band. It wasn't a DJ. It was a whole group putting this music on.
I actually didn't know they were a whole group. I just really liked what they did.
The drummer from Pendulum is actually the drummer for Destroyed. He was in Pendulum first. Yeah. And then when Pendulum split out and they went to Knife Party, he ended up joining Destroyed as well. And Destroyed is Excision, Downlink, and the drummer from Pendulum. And they create a 3-piece dubstep band.
Huh.
And Excision is like, the coolest setup ever. It's like $1 million plus show per performance. Their suits are like $150,000, and they have like air conditioning in them, and they shoot like so much. It's the biggest setup ever, and it's like these two dudes are from Kelowna. You got to remember.
I know Excision.
Jeff and Sean are both from Kelowna, and then you've got KJ from, I believe, I want to say Europe, but I'm probably wrong with that. But like Pendulum was a band. Yeah. So like he was playing like this weird MIDI guitar for all of the drops and stuff, and like. It was just such a weird. It's like that's where you like. That's why I love music, because there's no limit. Like you can be a metalhead, but you can also still toss in dubstep. Like, have you ever seen Hot Hands?
No.
It's this thing. It's called a Hot Hands, and it's a ring like this. It sits on your finger. That's attached to a pedal. It's plugged into your guitar, and you control the waves like dubstep.
A theremin?
Kind of like a theremin, except for it makes dubstep sounds. So your wobbles are done with your hands, because it's. It is. You're like. Womp, 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 womp,
like I wouldn't get
womp,
nothing
womp.
done. It would like nothing would get done.
That's why
by
I haven't
me.
bought one.
Yeah,
because I was trying to convince the band that we needed to add this in for specific songs.
I would get evicted because I would plug in my amp and just sit there doing that for hours, like or headphones, and just be like, and everyone's like.
And that's
where's
like
Richard? He's just continually doing that.
We don't even know what he's doing. It just looks from the back. It looks really awkward.
So,
but like it's the technology that we can make metal dubstep now, as guitar players and bass players, and people don't even realize that. It's just like the technology is constantly being pushed.
I love the bands that really push those boundaries too. Like that's what actually one of my favorite bands outside of like Megadeth and Judas Priest, which are my two big ones. It's Korn.
Oh yeah,
I absolutely love Korn, and I think one of the biggest things about Korn that I absolutely love them. One, I resonated with Jonathan Davis because he was actually a funeral director. But two, was
Fieldy.
Well, no, it was just they're willing to try. Like change and do that weird thing. Like if you listen to like the first album, that was like mixing up, you know, like you got those kind of hip hop beats at times, and it was doing something different and dark, and like by the time they did Follow the Leader, all those like pedal jumping that they had to do those songs was just, it wasn't something done, right? Especially because it had that hip hop and meets metal, but it wasn't. I still felt it still kept the life of metal, like where Limp Bizkit was like, hey, let's go full rap with metal. Korn was metal with hip hop elements.
Korn was unique in the sense that you had Fieldy, Brian, Head, and Monkey. And all three of them have such unique styles separately that when you put them together, it's almost like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
even David Silveria being there, like, when they first started, the first drummer, with him being like the Calvin Klein model.
Yeah.
Right? But he also had that Faith No More drum style.
Yeah.
And it just...
Korn is super cool because, like, I don't know, it's like, I don't listen to Korn because I had such a big Korn face when I was younger that it's like, I can't listen to them now. But Jonathan Davis is like, him as a person, it's kind of like you, where you're like, you came from the bottom and you brought yourself up, and then he's like so influential and helps the communities in so many different ways that people don't even realize, like, oh, he's famous, but the things he does on the back burner that you're not even seeing is what really matters. Kind of like how you go and like help with like communities, and you're always helping people and like the less fortunate, and it's like, you don't need to do that. You just do that because it's and it's out of your goodwill. And I'm like, is that because of how you are raised?
I think
Because I'm the same way. I will give you my shirt. I'll give you my socks and my shoes. I'll give you everything if you need it.
Yeah.
That's just how I was raised.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, I just, I guess for me, when it comes to charity and stuff like that, it was all about, you know, the old saying, it's leave the world a better place than you came into it on. I kind of took it to heart. Yeah. And I said, well, if I can, you know, what can I do, right? Like, I think too many people, like, especially when you have, like, housing crises and, like, a political discourse and all these, like, and that's one thing that social media is really bad at, is creating a black and white on, and, you know, colliding sides without listening. And I really do think that, like, when we go out there and just say, hey, man, like, I don't want to deal with that. I just want to, a lot of people in that are there for a buck, right? Like, they're there to make their dollars, to get ahead. Greed drives a lot, and I'm just like, you know what? If I could make $1 million, I would like to do something that helped 1 million people, you know, like, or helped somebody. And like, I made a joke at Denenzi's, the pizza place, the other day, that like, if I finished my game and it was a huge success, I'd buy a plot of land and I'd build a tower on it just so it would be pay for itself. But on the very bottom, like, not bottom, but like, you know, like on the ground floor would be a giant club I would build that could hold 1,000 people and a big stage on it. And I was like, this way, this bar will always be paid for. Always be able to have live music every day. And I would hire people I know with good living wages. And I would be like, let's make music. Let's have a music center again. Because like, Kelowna used to be really a music center when I moved here.
It was.
And like, unfortunately, the pandemic and stuff, a lot of that went away.
It was dying before.
It was dying before, but like,
that solidified it. And then coming back out of that with no venues, and there were only 3 venues that were really trying to, and then Revelry opened up. But even Revelry, it is the most sought after venue in town, but it's like, unless you're
somebody of a certain height.
Unless you've got a specific echelon, you're not getting in. And there's no shows going on there. They keep canceling shows. And it's like, well, that's exactly why your doors are going to close.
And that's why I said with the idea I had was like, I want everyone to play. Yeah. I just want people on stage playing. I want to make it sure that the bands are at least getting a fair swing at things, right? Like, and, you know, if you do that and you have it open and you have a bar there, right? As long as you get a restaurant license instead of getting a pub license, you could at least have all age gigs, right? Like, but like, I just really do think that bringing that back on a positive note, even though we've seen a downturn in live music in Kelowna and in the last, well, like we said, it was going down. I'll say like over years I've seen music go from being like really sought after, where the scene would get strong, solidify itself, really push ahead, and then it would kind of fall apart and go in different directions and flounder for a year or two, and then it would just start pulling itself back together. A lot of the times it was a band that reached across the pond, if you will, because like there would be different genres or different bands, or even just inside the metal scene, like almost like two scenes happening.
Mm-hmm. There's like so many scenes happening right now.
Yeah, and then eventually you find this one band that'll like keep reaching their hand across the pond and being like, hey man, like, I don't care, right? Like, let's just do a gig. And then you just, as you start to see those kind of come together, the scene starts to get stronger again, right? And I think we're going to see that soon. I think it's going to come back.
It's kind of why Chris and I decided to like, that's why we decided to like merge Machine Productions promotions into Enigma.
Okay.
So we recently, Clancy's, the guy who, Chris from Flano, who usually puts on.
Okay, yeah.
He's joined our team now. So now that it's, instead of having multiple promoters trying to put on shows the same day, is just work together and put on good shows together. Like, because realistically, there's what, 3-4 promoters happening in the Okanagan. There's Mayo, who's from Invisible Lorne. You've got Jesse, you've got us, and you've got Robb. And then there's a couple other that are starting to come up now, but it's
here and there, yeah. Like
there's 4 big promoters all scrapping it out for 3 venues in Kelowna. And that's every one of us is being offered amazing shows and by big bands on tour.
And that's one of the things that's too hard too, is like you have all these different places that want live music, but then
the cost and overhead is
cost and overhead,
dramatic.
But it's also like there are certain people that go to the punk and metal shows. Now, if you have an EDM show here and you have a metal show here,
that's not going to work. Or that doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter because it's the crossover isn't as big, right? But if you have like hardcore punk and metal, well, there's going to be some pull on either side. But if you have like metal and metal, now which one are you going to?
Yeah, if Denenzi's and Jackknife are both hosting metal
at the same night,
it's I'm not going out. I'm not making that choice, bro.
Well, that's the thing, though, right? Like, and it's what happens a lot of times, and it's like it's the promoters not talking to each other.
And this is exactly what I've been meaning. It's like we're all fighting each other.
And what you're doing is a really good idea. Like I tried to do that years ago. I did promotions back in the day. I used to do promotions up in Rutland at a bowling alley that gave it to us for free.
Yeah, I remember exactly which one. It was in Blue Heights.
Yeah. Blue Heights, I used to do the shows there. I brought in like Omega Crom.
I performed there. It was fun.
Yeah, I brought in a bunch of different bands through there. I wasn't always a promoter for all the metal stuff. There was a few other ones that did it, but when I was doing it myself, Hellraisers were happening downtown at Level Nightclub. And
with Kyle.
With Kyle, yeah. But I'm friends with Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle's awesome.
So I would call Kyle and be like, hey, when are you doing your next Hellraiser? And he's like, oh, it's going to be on the second week this month. I'm like, okay, I'm doing one at the end of the month then. And he'd be like, cool. So you have one at the end, I have one at the beginning. We're good. And we would do that to each other just because we knew that the town was big enough for 2 shows a month, not 4
shows a weekend. With 3 venues. 2 venues, sorry.
Well, God, like there's times when I look at Denenzi's breakdown and there's like every other day or every day.
And that leads to
a lot of empty shows. But it's also, it's not even just the empty shows because we need the draw. I think another problem is that, actually I can say this is the best, is back when I was doing the promotions, and that was when Facebook was on probably its height. Yeah. As the social media.
As like what you use as a musician.
Yeah, it was like everybody went from, always on Facebook, right? MySpace to Facebook, right? But it was when Facebook, it was at its absolute king height. Instagram wasn't even a thing yet, right?
It was 2008. That's when you're thinking.
Yeah, somewhere around there, right? And so when it was there, when we threw a gig with like everybody I knew was throwing gigs. We're just like, oh, I'm posted on Facebook, and then that was it.
All you had to do.
But I went out of my way. I was like, no, screw that, man. I'm like, there is a guaranteed there are people getting missed. And I remember it was a Mega Crom show, and I got the little handbills, and with my friends and my sister and stuff, we went through the mall parking lot and threw them under all the car windows, which I'd probably get in trouble for nowadays. But like, I did
what
that.
You had to do.
Oh yeah, but I threw them in there. I went into a girl, Kiri, she actually helps out at AMF now, but like she was running, I think it was West 49 back then. And I went in and I'm like, can you take this stack of handbills and like put it, she's like, yeah. She just put it up front. There was at least 10 people who came up to me that night and said, dude, I didn't know there was a metal scene in this town. There's like 200 people showed up. We were lucky to get 50 at the time. And like 200 showed up and they were like, dude, I didn't know there was a metal scene in this town. I didn't know where to find it. I didn't know this existed here. And they said, I saw this handbill. It looked metal as F. And I was like, I gotta go. And yeah, like I just think that's the only problem with social media marketing is that it's
lazy.
Well, it's not just lazy. It's the fact that like you have to be part of a group. Like, because Facebook, like
yes and no, because you can just pay or pardon the algorithm to do it now, right? Like, quite literally, you can just pay for an ad, and as long as you've got the proper person to set up your ad, you can make your reach.
Well, that's the thing.
But it's not a genuine reach. This is where I was like, it's fake. It's not.
Well, it's like even when I did that big food bank show I recently did with a bunch of bands. We had a multi-genre show.
Yeah.
And I advertised that, posters everywhere. I went through social media like every other day, posting different pictures of whatever else, trying to really like just get people out there. And still, like, even with all of that, it still didn't end up with a ton of people showing up. It was like, but then again, I found out once again that it was like a Bass Coast tryouts or something that same night. So
trying to compete with the festivals, bro, is an entire different demon.
And that was the thing. It was like, but you know, that's the thing though. It's like, we still did great for the food bank, in my opinion, but it wasn't the turnout I was hoping for, especially when you saw the movement. But again, like a lot of the stuff on social media, I'd look at the analytics of it and I'd be like, this is really weird. It's not reaching. And then I'd pay for some of them to reach. And the funniest thing I heard from multiple friends was like, dude, I saw your ad, and it was people who already knew. And I was like, so I just paid for you to see it again. I'm like, but the old guerrilla tactics, I do think maybe might find a way back.
They already are.
Because it's just,
We just flyered Penticton.
Yeah.
Our street team just went through and just did Penticton, and they've got tickets and stuff, and it's people don't want to do online anymore.
Well,
I asked on a post, would you rather physical tickets, pay for convenience online? And every single person said physical.
Really?
I would rather have physical tickets. Even if it's a small show, something physical. We're just so digital that everything's lacking now.
I actually, it was a weird thing. I actually found the opposite with the food bank show. I couldn't get a physical ticket sold.
The thing is, it's hard to get physical tickets out unless you have people who are willing to push them. You have to have somebody who's willing to push it, right?
That's actually, I think that's the biggest issue too, is like if you have them in a place, unless someone comes in and asks for them, you're not pulling them out.
No.
And so that becomes, I think, another issue with the whole thing is finding venues like, because where the tickets did sell, it was people who were pushing them. It was like my buddy Matt from Denenzi's, Matt Ellis, he's awesome. He was like pushing those constantly, like, and we didn't get a lot from there, but we did the most tickets, physical tickets sold were from him. Yeah. So the, and there was a lot of help with that show. Like, Opus Art Supplies helped with that, and great artists that were there.
When you're dealing with competing against the festival in the Okanagan, Nelson, they don't even book shows during the summer.
Oh, I bet.
No venue will book a show. Maybe a couple. Like the Royal will book some.
Yeah.
But even when we played, we were playing on Shambhala weekend, and we didn't even think about that when we were booking it, or you always have to think ahead.
Oh no, it wasn't Shambhala. It was Bass Coast and what's the big one in Alberta? Stampede.
Oh.
It was the Stampede in Alberta and Base Coast the same day we were playing.
Yeah, so it's it's definitely hard to navigate how to, and this is another thing when you've got so many promoters and not just Kelowna but BC alone. None of them are there's you've got the Western Metal Alliance and they all work together and they keep themselves in check. Yeah. And then they don't worry about anybody else's shows because that's what they do. But then you've also got like the EDM scenes and then you've got the hip hop scenes and there's like so much disconnect, and that's where it's like I start to want to pull my hair out because I'm like, community-based, guys, community, work together.
One of the reasons, like Kelson and I, King Kelson, was performing at the Food Bank show. One of the biggest reasons I think we did the reach out between the two of us, like we were friends, right, like old friends, and we were chatting about doing a show, and we said, wouldn't it be fun to try to do a show together and just do a variety act, and we ended up putting this whole big variety thing together. And one of the ideas we had was, wouldn't it be neat to kind of pull those together? It's like you play in a metal band and you do hip hop as well. I
also do acoustic stuff that nobody really knows about. I just don't talk about.
Yeah, and then there you go.
I play 14 instruments.
There you go. Right? I didn't know it was 14.
Yeah, dude, I can play so many different instruments, and they're all different. And crazy types, and I just.
And that's the thing, though, right? Like we don't just love metal. Like I love music. Yeah, we love music, right? Yeah. Like, and I love it. Like, I can't rap. I would never try. I have tried. It was bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't say I'm like a good rapper. I can say things really fast, and people seem to like it.
Well, there you go, right? Like, but I mean, like, there's some overlap, I think, between scenes that people just ignore. And one of the things I kind of wanted to do as a prototype with that show was like, hey, can we actually have these other worlds come together and enjoy a night together?
You can put anything together. Music has no limits.
That's one thing I think it would be kind of more fun in the future is metal shows. Like I love, and it's me, I love metal to no end, and I'll go to see as many metal bands as I can. But there was a part of me that kind of sat there, and one thing I liked about that show was like, we had a beautiful singer Anna Rose came up, and she was like, did some jazzy songs and whatever else, and you get like, okay, it's chill, and then like Lush Rushdie goes up, and they're like hardcore punk, and it's just complete other way, right? But now you're like hyped up, and then you get like King Kelson went on, and now it's like hip hop rap.
Yeah, kind of it's like laid back.
And then you go to Oldguard, and we're metal, and we're just up there. We went for one of our heavier sets that we've done too, and we hammered through there and ended up with like Crystal Gem doing like this like ethereal dubstep. It was really cool. And I just really liked how like I didn't get bored of anybody. I do find sometimes, not always myself, like I guess sometimes, but like very, very, very rarely for me. But I've had friends who said like they're not like hardcore metalheads. They like metal, but they're not like hardcore into it like we are, kind of thing. And then they've gone to a metal show and been like, you know what, dude, it was cool for the first band, and then the second band was like
same thing.
I don't know what the difference is. It was the same thing again. And then the third band was the same thing again. And I'm like, yeah, it was different songs, but like it was still really loud and fast. I don't know.
And scary.
Yeah, like like I have had people who've been like
That's why I like being a metalcore band.
Yeah.
We give everybody what they want. The girls get their clean singing that's really pretty, and they're like, oh, I really like that. And then the dudes are like, eh. And then all of a sudden I drop a 10-second brie that's like guttural, and people are like, that came out of you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, dude.
I like the diversity of it too. Like with Oldguard, when we started it, we were supposed to be like a hard rock band, but Steve and I couldn't do it. Just, we're from metal bands. We were like, I did Skullheimer back in the day was like thrash metal, and those boys went off to do Terrifier, and then which
is now heading
awesome, like absolutely amazing guys.
To go play. Aren't they back in this year?
Not Vakken.
The other
Louder
one.
Than Hell or Hellfest?
No. Yeah.
Is it Hellfest?
Or Bloods.
I'm gonna have to ask him.
I know they're heading to Europe though.
They are going to Europe,
Yeah.
and I'm so stoked for those guys. It's so awesome.
Like a year ago, I was playing with them in Kamloops, and now they're touring in Europe.
Oh yeah, and then you
so
go,
cool.
you go like, and I did like a metalcore-ish kind of thing, which was Screaming Calmly back in the day, and that was more in the line of that metalcore where I flipped between death vocals and clean singing, and like, you know, with Oldguard, it was just like, I can't just do clean, I can't just do calm, you know, like I have to be aggressive. If I don't scream, you know, I just can't. Like
it's so cathartic being able to scream. There's no better feeling.
Well, and I have my other project, Corpus Upier, which is like, it's been like my stage name back in the day. I turned it into a band name, and I have one album out, and I'm releasing a second one this year. And that one is like gothic metal. Like, I actually found myself on the Metalium, which was weird. If you know the Encyclopedia Metalium, found myself on there, which was really weird. It had a lot of information about me that I was like, I don't remember putting it. I never put any of this stuff on there.
I didn't write any of this.
Like, I had nothing to do with that, and I was like, how did you know that? And you got that picture off Instagram.
Like, you're a stalker.
like, why did you pick that one?
Facebook. All the good ones are on Facebook.
Well, no, I had better ones on Instagram. I'm like, why did you pick the one with me like a tank top? Like, I just finished a workout. That's the one I put up there. And I'm like, okay, thanks, man. But like, I went up there and I found Corpus Upier, which I would call like extreme gothic metal. Like, I've got like symphonies and electronic music mixed with metal, right? And like, and I do flip all my styles with vocals, but they put me up as experimental black metal, and I'm like,
that works.
Okay,
that works.
I
think that's the thing too. We can't name our genres.
No,
it has to be named by somebody else. You cannot describe your own band. It has to be done by somebody else. Because even like the way we describe ourselves, progressive metalcore, doesn't fully describe what we are. In any way or any capacity.
And then somebody's going to say something else. Like, oh no, man, I just like put more of your parts into deathcore, or I did like whatever. And you're like, okay.
I just write music, bro. I write music that feels good to me, and when I'm looking at the crowd and those people are smiling at me during the same moments that I'm smiling at, because they can feel what I'm feeling, that's all that matters.
Well, yeah, it's the vibe, man. Like, when you're out there vibing, especially like when we were out there and like touring and stuff, it was always fun with you guys. Like,
guys, you have to have fun.
And it's like,
you have to shrug everything off, just like being like dead the next day, laying against the thing.
Waking up with like ducks and chicken, and you're like,
why are there ducks everywhere?
Why is there ducks and chicken here? That's another story. Like, but, you know,
road, those are. I wish we could dive into road. Like, maybe I'll start a YouTube show that's just like diving into road stories, but I know we can't do it here because there's been so many good times, and I'm like, oh, I wish people could hear this story, but like, it's not gonna happen.
But we, like, you know, that's the thing though. Like, I also said musicians are the only people who lug $10,000 worth of gear,
easy,
across a province to play for $20,
or a high five,
That's happened.
Here's a high five and a beer. Good job.
You have a shot, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Like,
I can say that we've traveled 24 plus hours straight to perform at a show with a trailer full of gear.
Yeah.
All the gear inside being tossed around because somebody didn't slow down during corners, and almost losing an entire drum kit. But like, there's moments like those, and those are the moments that really like strengthen you as a band, or realize like, this is not for me. So many bands hit tour and that's where they end. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I've had musicians that I've, you know, played with, and as soon as we were on the road together, I'm like, I will know.
Yeah.
Just know.
I've lost best friends being on the road touring, just because it was like the dynamic when you're writing music and you're performing music is one thing, but when you're stuck in a vehicle together for 16 plus hours with no showers, no food, no stopping to even go to the washroom because you have to make it there for sound check. It's very stressful, and it takes a lot of like, there's been times where like quite literally we're all choking each other on tour. Like,
well, and like I would say to anyone thinking like actually touring, and as much as it still isn't a good reflection of what it is, is like, go try to go camping like 16 hours away from where you live with your buddies in one vehicle.
Yeah, one vehicle.
One vehicle.
Not a tent. You're sleeping in the car.
A bunch of you all go up. You're going to camp there for a week. You can have your camps or whatever, your own tent or whatever, but like you're all going to go up to the same place in one vehicle. Now go camp there for 1 week together. And when you come back, if you all still love each other, you be in a band. Be in a band.
You can be in a band.
Well, you can be in a band. You're okay.
Yeah.
Right? But if you go and you are trying to kill each other within a day, it is very unlikely that you will last very long as a band. There are exceptions. But I will say it's like very likely that horrible things will happen at some point.
Yeah, you realize what really matters, like, on the road.
Yeah.
And like, who has got your back, especially in those moments, because they can be beyond stressful. Like,
well, and that's the thing is like, you know, all the logistics of car breaks down, whatever else. Where are you going to stay? Where?
That's not even. That's an if.
Yeah. Well, like it's,
all the pre-planning up to even just get out there, right?
Oh, well, that's true. Like you know, you got all the pre-planning, all the stuff that you have to have enrolled. Then and if you get there and you realize you forgot something. And you always forget something.
Always.
And when that happens, you can see who can deal with the stress and who just breaks. And it can be
a make or break for any band,
Yeah, it can be a make or break. And it's like, it shows you who you can trust with the ball.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like, hey, you know what? So-and-so in the band's really good at this, and this, but maybe we shouldn't have him do this, right? Like, and things like that. So it's like...
We've managed to do that now after 6-7 years of being together.
Yeah.
And we've had multiple different members. Like, we had Dale and Jake and Corey, who was our original lineup, and Dale got deported during COVID because his paperwork didn't go through in time because of everything else that was going on in the world, that his immigration status didn't go through. And it was like, got to get rid of our guitar player. He's got to go home. He's never coming back. Oh. And that was like our first step into like, now I've got to step into guitar and be guitar, not just vocalist, because Dale's here and Jake's left. And so it was like, you're always constantly trying to like maneuver how you're going to keep this engine going.
Yeah, it is a machine.
It is. And
it's got a lot of moving parts. And I think that's the one hardest thing with, like, for me with social media is that it needs so much attention. And it is basically, I think nowadays, as much as we'd like to think it's not as important, it is very much like the oil to the machine. If you know, it's funny, I've talked to venues where it's like they look up your band, if you don't have an Instagram, they're like, you don't have an Instagram? No, I'm not booking you. Oh, you have an Instagram, but you only have 100 followers. So
this is where we're saying the metrics. The metrics versus the actual, like, and as a person who has to like do that and also have to reject people. It's like, especially right now, like I'm having the reason the festival lineup has not been announced. It's not done.
Yeah.
I'm taking my time with it because I know, like, if I reach out to certain bands and they can't make it, I've still got to be able to like fill the lineup.
Well, that's
right.
The
like it's not just like a rushed thing, but it's also like I know it's based off music, so I'm not looking at their metrics like, oh, you've only got 5 fans.
Yeah.
I'm listening to the music. If the music is good and the live video that they've sent me is like, these guys can handle themselves, I'll book them. I don't care if they've got 5. Because I've booked bands that have 50,000 and they're terrible. Yeah. Like, you know, they have a huge following and it's all simply because of fad. They had a viral video and all of a sudden all these people, that is not fan base.
I've had bands that I've gone to see or I was doing the door or whatever for, and I'm not naming names or anything, but like I the way it was talked about was like, this is going to be like a huge band and it's going to be such a big deal, and like it's like they're like going to be so good, and then I go see them and I'm like, this is terrible. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what's going on? Like, really, what is
happening here?
What is happening here? I remember one band, and again, not naming things, but I remember looking at my drummer and being like, are we that old now?
So we're the judgmental ones now.
like it's noise, right? Like
this is just noise.
This is just noise, right? Like I'm old, right? I just hit old. I guess I'm old.
I guess we're just old now.
Yeah, I'm like, crap. I'm like, like, I just, it is funny, but like at the same time though, you're totally right though. There are people who have like no social media following. Like even Oldguard doesn't have a big social media following because we don't focus on it. Mm-hmm. We focus on live shows, we focus on songs.
Well, there's international, there's local, and there is, like I say, living off your art.
Yeah,
and like the older I get, the more I realize I don't need to be the next Children of Bodom, the next Lamb of God, the next Miley Cyrus. I would way rather just be able to live. Like if I can pay myself a basic wage, to do what I love, and that's success to me. Like, and I've managed to like work it so that it's like I'm still getting paid the same amount of money that I was doing construction to do what I do with music. And for me, that's success. And I think if more bands and artists thought like that, it wouldn't be such that gimme industry. It's because we all can have a piece of it. You just got to do it properly.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you don't have to make the $1 million, right? Like you don't need that. Like,
do you know how much taxes on $1 million is?
It's a ton. Trust me, I've looked at those logistics for video game wise, and it's not fun. But like the thing is though, like I will say it's like doing it because we love it. If we could live off of, like you said, that's enough. Like that's why when I got into doing like graphic art and 3D models mainly and level design for video games, it was. I just love what I do, right? Like I worked for the Royal Canadian Navy for a while doing different projects for them, which I'm not going to name, but like it's so like, cool. But like, working for them, it's like that was so technical and so had to be precise. Whereas then I have the next project, which is like, build me this monster with needles for hands. It's like, oh, cool, right? Mm-hmm. Like, sure. And then like you start, you work with an art lead and you build this, and it's just like you build friendships, you build. But you also learn, and you're always getting better at what you do, and that's what I really love about like the art world and creating something. Even for bands, like if I'm doing something for another band, I'm stoked because I'm going to put all my heart into it because I'm like, but I'm going to pick that band's brain on what they want or who they are or whatever else. I did a banner for Lush Rusty. That was a bit more on a whim, but I knew that like. Our main hangout for that band is Denenzi's.
Oh yeah.
And like Denenzi's Pizza, and then
bro.
Like, yeah, like.
And their pizzas are legendary.
Oh yeah, no,
there's a specific way to eat Denenzi's pizza. Like there is a specific way to. It's not. It's the Dunny way.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's just like with like I knew that was their hangout. I knew that their mascot was done in that noodle arm 1920 Steamboat Mickey kind of style. Yeah. So, and they're punk rock. So I said, well, what can I do? So I drew a banner in the 1920s style, and I made sure it had that, like punk rock Mickey and Goofy kind of looking characters, and put all that around them. Because it was, and I literally spent my day just making that, and I loved every moment of it because it was like, I just wanted them to see it. I didn't know if they were going to like it or not.
Yeah.
And I said it to them, and they loved it. Now they have it as a giant banner.
That's so funny.
And it's like was the biggest compliment I could have ever gotten was seeing that. But the, I think music is a similar thing because it's art, right? You get better at it. You not always, but like like you progress, you learn new things, it's constantly evolving. I think the thing I can't do, why I can't sit in construction a lot of times is because I did glazing for a while when I was younger, and it was like, but I did it for manufacturer, and it was like, build this window, okay, and it was same thing over and over again, repetition, and I just like, it became mindless, and I just mindless same tasks. My ADHD brain just goes over here.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, and so like making money at art, there's no other blessing.
No,
really. and then like making money at music. If I can get to the point where Oldguard or Corpus or whatever else I do is making enough, then I consider myself quite blessed, right? And if I can make the extra, well, I'm not gonna complain.
Exactly.
I personally, like I said, I would want to give back. I'd want to create a venue for Kelowna, make us a hub.
Yeah.
You know, like, and make it not one where it's like, hey, you have to be part of this group. I want everybody there. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm the guy that's really believes in, like, I don't care what your background is, what you're into, whatever else. Hey, let's go have fun.
Yeah.
Right. Like.
You've always been that way.
Yeah. Let's all have fun. Who gives a crap? I don't care what your political whatever other thoughts are or whatever. It's like, go for it, man. But like, everyone come in. Let's have fun. Let's listen to music. Let's rock out. Right. Like, if you can do that, there's nothing better. Right.
No, that's true.
I'm pretty sure we've always had that kind of thought, right? Like, and we have fun when we play shows, especially when we played Storm the Empire. We always had fun.
We definitely have fun.
Yeah. Like,
I want to thank you, brother.
No problem.
We're almost at an hour and a half. I can't believe how quickly that went.
Fast, yeah. I talk a lot, so
I mean, you get on a good conversation, and you can't stop a good conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Sure. Yeah.
So thank you for having me, and
no worries,
getting to talk with you about your perspective, because everyone's got a valued perspective, especially when it comes to music, and when you're in it, it's a lot easier to see than when you're kind of just like, that outside perspective is like, oh, well, the music scene in Kelowna is okay. When you actually get to deal with the people inside of it who help make it and continue to make it be, it's nice to hear.
Yeah.
So
and like we said earlier too, it's nice to see, be an inspiration for those behind you.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, we got to push the next generation. So.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Me too.
When I'm super gray.
Me too. I'm already getting there.
Yeah, well, I'm already there, and I'll have my wheelchair one day. I'll just wheel in, and hopefully they'll raise me up like the pictures.
Yes. We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for coming by.
Have a good one.